Your lesson essential question is, what are the parts of a story's structure? And this is something that we talked about last week. So we're going to be looking at story structure again. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking at a test this week and dissecting it together and really practicing how to answer test questions about story structure. So we'll be focusing on those characters and the setting, and also the beginning, middle, and end. Specifically, what are the characters' problems and how are they being solved throughout the story? But we're going to be doing that by practicing taking a test together. So let's talk about some test-taking strategies. There's some really important things that you need to remember when you're taking a test, whether it's in the classroom or at home on the computer. The first really important thing is you need to make sure you're reading the question. If you don't read the question, then how are you going to answer it? So always make sure you read the question carefully before you give it an answer. The next thing is, go back to the text and find the text evidence that helps you answer the question. This is really important because if you find the answer in the text, then you know you're not going to get the question wrong. So always make sure that you're going back to the text and finding that text evidence. It's kind of like you're a detective. Next, eliminate the answers you know are wrong. So if you're stuck and you know that the first answer choice is definitely not the answer, now you're down to only a couple answer choices to choose from. So making sure that you get rid of the answers that you know are wrong will help it be less to look at and easier to figure out what the answer could be. Last, check your work when you're done. Make sure you gave the correct answer choice for each one. Make sure you answered each question, and just check your work. So let's look at this test. And let's practice reading and answering some questions together. Then you're going to go read a story and practice answering questions on your own. So this story is called Max and Eddie Watch Clouds. And I want to make sure that I read the story before I go to answer the questions. It's very important that I read the story. It was a bright, sunny afternoon. Max and Eddie looked at the sky from their home in the branches. Their tails moved softly in the wind. Max asked Eddie, "Why do clouds not fall from the sky?" "I do not know, Eddie," said Max. "Everything else falls," said Eddie. "Apples fall, leaves fall, even this acorn falls." Eddie dropped an acorn. "But we have not seen a cloud fall." "I have a plan," said Max. "We will watch the sky tomorrow. We will watch all day long, and maybe we will see what happens to the clouds." The next day, there were soft white clouds in the sky. The squirrels watched the clouds all morning and all afternoon until it started to get dark. The clouds moved across the sky, growing bigger as the day went on, but they did not fall. "Rats," said Eddie. "I wonder if we missed something." Max and Eddie were very confused. The next day, Max and Eddie watched the sky again. The clouds grew bigger all day, and then they started to turn gray. "Oh, it looks like it might rain. We will have to go inside," said Eddie. "No," said Max. "We have to stay to watch the clouds. Remember our plan." So Max and Eddie sat and waited. It got darker and darker, and soon there was no sunlight at all in the sky. Big gray clouds covered everything, and then it started to rain. The two squirrels tried using their tails to cover themselves from the rain, but it was no use. They got wetter and wetter as they watched. Finally, the rain stopped. There were no clouds in the sky, and the sun shone. "Hey, the clouds are gone," said Max. "Do you think they fell from the sky?" "Max," said Eddie, "we were watching the whole time and did not see any clouds fall. But we saw rain, And after the rain stopped, the clouds were gone, said Max. So clouds are made of rain, cried Eddie. Yes, so clouds do fall, said Eddie. A rainbow came out, and Max and Eddie smiled. Okay, now that we've read the text, let's move on and look at a few of the questions. Fill in the chart to show what happens in the beginning, middle, and end of the story. Choose the sentences in the box. Write them in the correct place in the chart. So I see that we have Max and Eddie watch the sky. Max and Eddie see rainfall. Max and Eddie make a plan. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into the text so I know it's they watch the sky, they see rainfall, and they make a plan. And I'm going back and I'm rereading. And as I'm looking, it looks like in the first paragraph it says, Max and Eddie looked at the sky. And that's happening in paragraph 1. So there's my text evidence that shows at the beginning of the story, Max and Eddie are watching the sky. Since I've already used that one, I'm going to cross it out. So now I'm down to Max and Eddie see rainfall and Max and Eddie make a plan. So let's go back to my text. So we know the first thing they did is they looked at the sky. I keep reading. Oh, I see. In paragraph 5, I have a plan. So it looks like the next thing they do is they're making a plan. And what I'm doing is I'm underlining my text evidence. My text evidence is my clues that kind of give away the answer. So first, they watch the sky. In the middle, they make a plan. And I've used that one, so I'll cross it out. Max and Eddie see rainfall. That's what's last, but I'd like to go back and just make sure. So it looks like it's starting to turn gray. They're watching the clouds still. It got darker and darker, and then it started to rain. So I know that that is the last thing that happens at the end of the story. So first, Max and Eddie watch the sky. In the middle, Max and Eddie make a plan. At the end, Max and Eddie see rainfall. And I looked for that text evidence, so I know I'm not wrong. Okay, what happens in the story right after it starts to rain? So Max and Eddie watch the sky. Max and Eddie go inside. Max and Eddie get wet, or Eddie drops an acorn. So let's go look for where it starts to rain. The two squirrels tried using their tails to cover themselves from the rain, but it was no use. They got wetter and wetter as they watched it. Finally, the rain stopped. There were no clouds in the sky. Hey, the clouds are gone, said Max. Do you think they fell from the sky? Max and Eddie were watching the whole time and did not see any clouds fall. Okay, going back to the question. So Max and Eddie watch the sky. They go inside, they get wet, or they drop an acorn. Looking over here, it says they got wetter and wetter. So there's my text evidence that answers the question. So they watch the sky. Let's get a different color. Well, they were doing that before, so we know that's not the right answer. They go inside. They didn't go inside. They got wet? Yes, we found text evidence that shows that they got wet. They drop an acorn. We know that's not the right answer. So what I did just now is I eliminated answers that I knew were wrong. So then I only have a couple to look at once I get rid of the ones I know are wrong. And I also made sure, even though I knew the answer was C, I made sure that I read all the answer choices that came after C. So I still read D and made sure that it wasn't correct. Oops. Okay, this question has two parts. First answer part A, then answer part B. Part A, what happens at the end of the story? Max and Eddie are very confused. Max and Eddie watch the sky all morning. Max and Eddie watch the clouds get bigger. Max and Eddie learn that clouds fall as rain. So I go back to the story. And I'm looking at the end. It says, "So clouds are made of rain," cried Eddie. "Yes, so clouds do fall," said Eddie. A rainbow came out and Max and Eddie smiled. So it looks like at the very end, they're learning that clouds are made of rain. So Max and Eddie are very confused. Not at the very end. Max and Eddie watch the sky all morning. That happened in the beginning. I know that's wrong. They watch the clouds get bigger. Well, that happened in the middle. But I just found text evidence that show Max and Eddie learn that clouds fall as rain. Part B is asking about my text evidence. Which sentence from the story tells what happens? Oh, it looks like it might rain. They got wetter and wetter as they watched. So clouds are made of rain, cried Eddie. A rainbow came out and Max and Eddie smiled. So which piece supports my answer up here? Well, we actually already underlined it. So clouds are made of rain, cried Eddie. So our answer is C. Now you're going to go read this story, Watching the Sunsets, and you've got a few questions to answer. And tomorrow we'll go through and we'll go over your answers so you can check to make sure you were right. Don't forget our test-taking strategies. You want to read the question. You want to go back to the text and find the text evidence that helps you answer the question. Eliminate those answers you know are wrong and check your work when you're done. You're going to need a notebook or a piece of paper to write your answers down so that you don't forget your answers for tomorrow when we go over them. Good luck!